I usually like to plan my menu for today's dinner early in the morning. And so I spend the morning sort of thinking about what is it that I'm going to cook today. And for some reason, what was on my mind was something like pork carnitas or some type of pork in a chili Colorado type sauce or red chili sauce. Headed to my freezer and lo and behold, I did find the pork. And I always keep some chilies on hand, so I have some guajillos and put all the other ingredients together. And so today we're going to make pork in a red chili sauce, a red chili guajillo sauce. Let's go do this. Today, going into our pork stew with a guajillo chili sauce is going to be a whole onion cut into quarters. I've got 12 guajillo chilies that I've already de-seeded. Got pepper. I'm going to be using approximately a teaspoon of pepper to start. Salt, I've got a tablespoon, and I'm going to adjust my seasonings up or down with both the salt and pepper depending on taste. I've got cumin, and that's about a teaspoon of cumin. I've got a tablespoon of oregano, a teaspoon of thyme. What about 6, 7, 8 cloves of garlic, some achiote seasoning, that's about 2 teaspoons, and I've got 2 bay leaves. In addition, the pork I'm going to be using is from pork trim, and I have a combination of both rib meat and pork shoulder or pork butt meat. I'm going to start off making my chili sauce by toasting the chilies. And I've got a little bit of garlic olive oil in this cast iron skillet. And I'm also going to put in my onions and my garlic, like a lot of garlic. And we'll let that go for a few minutes. I don't want to burn the chilies, I just want to get them toasted, and that'll bring out a lot more of the flavor. My onions, garlic, and chilies have been toasting for only a few minutes. And I'm going to turn the heat off and let it rest a little bit until I'm ready to put it in my blender so that I can blend it in some chicken broth. In the meantime, I'm going to cover it, and it's going to create a little bit more steam and juices in there for that blending. Here I have my rib trim and pork trim, pork rib trim and pork butt trim, and I'm just going to slice it up. It's still a little bit frozen, which makes for easy cutting. And because it is trim meat, it's already into little pieces, so it's not going to require much cubing. So I can take some of those pieces and just put them in a bowl. And some other parts may have to be cut. I'll cut that. Bite size is good. There I have my cubed pork. I'm now going to add the salt to the pork, and that's just to get it sort of brined. I'm going to be browning this pork in a Dutch oven brownie, meaning I'm going to be first frying it up, getting some color and caramelization on it. And that's 1 tablespoon of salt to start. And we'll let that sit a little while. This meat is still frozen. Here I have the ingredients to start the processing of my chilies. I've got my toasted chilies, onions, and garlic. I've got the pepper, achiote seasoning, cumin, and I've got 2 cups of chicken broth. And this is chicken broth that I actually made from a chicken that I boiled a couple of weeks ago, and I saved the broth, froze it, and then defrosted it today to use for this use. I'm heating the oil in the Dutch oven so that I can brown my meat. I'm going to put it in a little bit at a time because I don't want to crowd it. I want it to brown, not steam. You see, as that brown, it forms a little bit of that fond in the bottom. That's flavor. This is my second batch of browning. I'm going to take that out. Now I've got all of it brown, move it back. To the Dutch oven. And all that fond in the bottom, caramelization of the meat, which is going to enhance the flavor. My next step is to add the blended chilies, onions, and garlic. And I'm going to put it through a strainer so that anything that didn't blend well will not go through. And we're not going to waste what's in there. I'm going to come back and add some more of that chicken stock to get that out of the blender. So this is just a matter of letting it go through. And filter out all those big particles. You can see it blended pretty good. I don't have very many big flecks of anything. And this is additional chicken broth that I went through and blended so I can get all that goodness out of those chilies from the blender. Now we're going to let this cook for about an additional hour or so, and we'll know when it's ready when we get that pork tender. I'm also going to add the oregano and the thyme. And we previously added the other dry ingredients and seasonings when we blend it. I'm going to leave this on a simmer. Oh, one other thing I forgot. I've got the bay leaves. Here go the bay leaves. Can't forget those. And we'll cover it up. After about an hour and a half, my pork in a Guajillo chili sauce is now done. The pork is tender. We're going to be serving this up for dinner today with some rice, guacamole, lettuce, tomato on tortillas, both corn and flour. In the meantime, I'm going to let this settle on an extra low smoke just to keep it warm. It's just a warming flame until we're ready to eat. Then we'll serve this baby up. Sauce looks nice and rich. It's tasty. I've already gone through and corrected the seasonings. I had to add a little bit more salt, and that was it. There are a number of different ways that my pork and Guajillo chili sauce can be served. One method is I'm going to take a flour tortilla and I'm going to put a little bit of cheddar cheese on there. And you can use any type of cheese you want. I just happen to have cheddar here in the house. I'm going to take that and melt that cheese, and I'll come right back. What I did was I put some cheddar cheese on a flour tortilla, melted it. Then I put the pork on top of the cheese. I layered a little bit of red onion on there. Then I took some shredded lettuce, put on some guacamole, and I've also got here some sour cream, which I'll add. And then that can be eaten as is. It would be nice if I had some tomatoes that I could dice and put on there, and that would add a lot of color and make it very pretty. The other thing is I may just take a little bit more of that red onion and put on there. I also made some rice, in which you could have made a pork bowl with some rice, the pulled pork over it, and all the other different ingredients, and eat it that way. Or you could have had a corn tortilla. To eat this, I just take my tortilla, and I can take it as a wrap and make it somewhat similar to a burrito. It's sort of like an overdone burrito. And then take my first bite. The flavors in there are just perfect. Just perfect. A lot of levels of flavor in the pork. and add that to the freshness of the avocado and the sour cream and lettuce. I want to thank you for joining me in this adventure of making this pork with a Guajillo chili sauce, and I recommend.